Goodness, it is just about after 10 o'clock here in the UK, in England, but yeah, but it's the best time for me to interview because my kids have gone to bed and my wife's working in the other room, so I do get the time just to interview and really celebrate our artists and stuff. So it's been I've actually been working on trying to get you guys for over a year when Unfinished Business got released, and I've
Wow.
been and so but finally they gave me the green light to say yes, we could schedule you guys. So I'm
Wow. Good
definitely really
deal.
excited. I'm going to go through Unfinished Business song by song because I've listened. It's probably one of the first albums in many years that I've listened to all tracks, 13 tracks plus the three interludes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I've got my five favorites from it and stuff. So I'll go through that. But before I start, because
Okay.
I'm based in the UK, but most of my audience they're from around the world, so we always like to find out from everyone where they were born and raised, so that we can sort of get a feel as to where everyone's from. Um, we can probably start with you, Keith.
I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana, born and raised, went to Indiana University, currently residing in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay. Now, is it true that you were the cousin of Ellery? Because I remember, so I in the in the early 80s, when After Seven came out, I was in Nigeria. So when Heat of the Moment came out, it was big in Nigeria. And what we heard, reading Black Beat and Right Tone was, oh yes, we got Babyface's two brothers and L.A. Reid's cousin have come to form a group. So is that true, Keith?
Well, it read very well, right? It's a great story, but totally untrue. Uh, but it was great copy. But no, we're close like family, but not in real life.
Okay. 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 Um, yeah, Kevon, what about you? Where were you born and raised?
I am. I was also born in the city of Indianapolis, Indiana. Born and raised there. Attended Indiana University along with Keith. As a matter of fact, that's where Keith and I first met. And yeah, and Babyface is really my brother.
Okay.
He already
Yeah.
knew the question was going.
Yeah. No, that's true. Daniel, you mentioned you were born and raised in Boston. Oh, sorry, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Well, I was born in New York, but I
New
was raised in Boston or Cambridge, Massachusetts, and
Cambridge.
yeah, went to Berkeley College of Music, and I reside in Atlanta, Georgia.
Reside in Atlanta, yes. And Kevon, I think I've overheard that you are now in Nashville. Is that the case, or?
Oh, wait a minute! I'm scared of you. Ooh, you got your sources together here. Oh my goodness, this is true. I am a resident now in Nashville, Tennessee. I've been there for about close to 15 years. It's crazy.
Wow.
Time goes by. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Mm-hmm.
as I mentioned earlier, I mean, so I was born here in the UK, but my in the early 80s, my parents moved to Nigeria, and so I went to boarding school there. Then, in the 90s, 91, I moved to the States. I was in Alabama, and LA, and Wisconsin. But so when I track the group, I track it from three different countries. So
Wow.
in Nigeria, when you guys came out with Heat of the Moment, it was, and I don't know if you guys knew how big that was internationally. I mean, it was big in the States, but in Nigeria, it was a big, massive hit. Um,
Wow.
and as I said, I don't know how the DJs got the track and stuff, but just trying to trace the group and how you guys started. Um, Keith and Kevin, you met in college, you said?
We did.
Yes.
Uh,
Oh,
yeah. We met in a course called what was it? IU Soul Review. It was actually a class that gave us credit for learning theory, some business, and the performance of R&B music, soul music is what it
wow.
was. And it was started by the teacher, the professor, Dr. Portia K. Maltsby, along with late Dr. Herman Hudson. And they created a curriculum just for that, just for us to get an opportunity to know what it was like what the industry was like. And so we cut our teeth there. That's where Keith and I first met each other, and had some great experiences there, and still connected to a lot of those people here today, who have had a great impact on how I think we began to kind of find this pathway of music and performance, and really kind of cultivated and nurtured a love for us. There was and what they did is just brought out more of what was already in us. I think is what it was, But that's where we started,
Was it more of a performance school, or was it more of a, like, understanding the industry of the music industry?
Well, this was Indiana University, so the School of Business, Sciences, and so on and so forth. But this was a part of an African American studies. What was part of African
Okay.
American studies, and so they offered this as a course as well.
So at this time, then, was this a time when you guys were even contemplating becoming recording artists, or what was the path for both yourself and Keith at the time?
Yeah.
Well, no,
No.
it was no real thought of becoming entertainers in any capacity at that point. It was a class that was offered. You were offered the opportunity to audition to be in the class.
Okay.
So depending upon what you brought talent-wise, whether you played the guitar, played the drums, sing, dance, choreographer, stage hands, there were positions for a variety of students to participate in the class. And so it offered you that taste of honey, because once we put together the show during the first semester of the school year, the second semester was put together a performance with instrumentation, dancing and singing, and then we would go out and we'd sing at some nonprofit organizations, other schools, prisons, universities. So it was the opportunity to get to develop the sense of participating in a show, but it wasn't a real entity. I think after years passed and we were in school together, Kevin, myself, and a couple other guys in Melbourne would get together in the summers, and we try to put together some sense of being a group and presenting ourselves to greater Indianapolis area in some singing contests and gong shows, so to speak. But that didn't open up a lane of thought even of being professionals, because it was just too difficult to separate artists from bands. And so that was a difficult issue. But we didn't get to this level until Babyface's success came. And that opened the door for us to have a reality into potentially having a presence as professional artists.
So around what year was this that you guys were in the course doing this?
Watch it. We see where you're going.
No,
Watch it, young
no,
man. He's
no.
trying to put a clock on it there, Key. Watch it.
No. Because I was trying to clock the, Babyface with the deal and stuff like that. So just thinking, if you guys didn't even consider or see his success and think, okay, maybe we can do it, and also what was happening in the music industry around the time when you guys were doing your course.
Yeah, but what Face and LA were doing, they were part of a band that had blazed the trail in the only pathway that you could, was being a part of a band entity.
Okay.
And they worked hard. They saw Kenny coming from Cincinnati, and Kenny's bands from Indiana would come to Cincinnati, and the Cincinnati bands would come to Indiana as places where they would travel to go perform their wares. And that's where Kenny met with the guys from the deal. And ultimately that became an entity. What he brought to the table was profoundly a lot of talent. And that opened the door that the deal became something. And then LA and Face took it to another level. So their success opened the door for us. We never saw success in our grasp as students
Okay.
and young graduates, from college. We were just, if something could happen, I know Kevon was passionate about helping his brother become successful. Whatever he could do to make that happen for him, he was willing to do it. But we weren't pressing nobody's button saying, "Hey, give us a shot." We could sing. It wasn't about that.
Yeah.
We were doing our individual things, but it was family. And Kenny knew of our talents. He knew of his brother's talents. But I don't think that was the brain thrust. It was about him and his career and building a career. And then his career got so big and became so successful, he was able to turn around and bless us. And Melvin spoke about that quite eloquently in some of the on my record, Unfinished Business.
Yeah, yeah. One of the interludes about the producer, songwriter, and so. But when you guys were in school, because it's different when I interviewed, say, Melvin Riley Jr. and he was part of Ready for the World, and they looked at bands, but for you guys in those days, I mean, I think Cameo, the Gap band. I mean, so Cameo, maybe. Yeah, the Gap band. I mean, did you have a model of who you were looking at as performers? Because without a band to sort of emulate.
Wow. I think there was a gap in there. I think during that time, like you may or may not know of this group. There was the Deal. There was Cameo. There was also a group that my brother was in prior to that called Manchild.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and so Manchild was on some level kind of emulating, taking a look at a lot of these, so many self-contained groups back then. The Barcades were doing their thing back then. So you had Manchild. Of course, Manchild was looking at Cameo, but as things moved on and Kenny evolved and he became a member of the Deal, then now you're still taking a look at Cameo and the kind of music they're doing. You're taking a look at Prince, because Prince and all of that stuff was starting to, really begin to cook as well. So I was having a conversation with Danny earlier and just thinking about some of the things that they used to do when they got prepared for a show. And sometimes there was like, eyeliners and stuff that they would do, fix up makeup. That was all part of what that period was. It was all a part of that what that period was, doing those things that they thought were part of what would help sell you. And so at that point, for Keith and I, we weren't looking from a self-contained perspective. We were more of a stand-up male vocal group. And so, that means separate and apart. We have a band that would back us, but we were the entity. For Kenny and LA and D and my goodness, I'm about to go blank.
KO,
Carlos,
yeah,
KO and Carlos, Stick, all of them. They were a self-contained unit, and they made the sound collectively together. Whereas Keith and I and Melvin, we were standalone. What we were doing while that was going on, we were busy going to late night little shows in the Indianapolis market and doing gong shows. Are you familiar with those?
Yes, yes, I've heard of the Gong Show. Yes.
It's kind of like a little competition,
Yeah.
and you go in here and somebody sings and this person sings and you're really singing. You're up there and you're singing. You're trying to see who's going to do the best job and win the prize, take the money. And that's kind of like what we did in the interim. But really at that time, I think we got to a period where everybody kind of got into their careers in terms of what they were doing as being adults. Now moving on into your lifestyle and working a 9 to 5, doing those kinds of things. And that's kind of like where we evolved to. But, as time went on, Kenny and LA persevered, continued to write and produce and had opportunities out on the West Coast, which is what really opened the doors for them to start really having an impact on other young artists because at the time, Solar Records and Dick Griffey gave them an opportunity to start producing. And that's kind of what it was. So things started cooking for them. And meanwhile, back at the camp, we working on 9 to 5s, Kingston, Chicago. I'm in Indianapolis. Melvin might have been in Cincinnati for a while too. And I recall calling my brother Kenny, and I said to him, "Hey man, I got to get out of here. I don't care I don't care what you have me do. I'll load equipment. I'll push. I don't care. Just let me know." He said, "Okay, just okay. I hear you. Be patient. And he gave me some words of advice. He said, "Well, right now we're working on some things. I can't say exactly what it is, but I would tell you, if you got bills or whatever it is, pay all your bills down. Just be ready. And that's what it was. And so that was a word that I shared with Melvin, and I shared with Keith. And I said, "Hey, you still want to do this thing?" And Keith said, "Yeah." I don't know if it was hell yeah, but it was yeah. And eventually that's what came. And we were prepared to go. And that meant drop what you were doing and make a career choice, make a decision. And that's what we were prepared to do. But we didn't feel like we were just taking a big risk. We were taking the best risk I think anybody could do for an act unknown to go and have an opportunity to sign with a major label because of the reputation and the level of success that both Kenny and LA were experiencing and the rapport and relationships that they were developing. We ultimately signed a deal with Virgin Records. They never saw who we were.
Wow.
They never heard us. None of that. They just figured, hey, if it's LA and Babyface and they got some brothers that sing, we'll sign them, snatch them up. And so we had a deal sight unseen, and that was a good thing.
Now, was it always the three of you, or did in After Seven, yourself, Melvin, and Keith?
And Keith, that was it.
Okay, so you always settled on the three, like a Levert, or did you think of it wasn't a thing like we need the harmonies and?
It never became that. It was the 1, 2, 3. It was it.
Yeah. And then I mean, as I said, it worked perfectly. But then did at those times, how did you guys decide on vocally who has what parts? Was that a sort of a hard thing? Who's going to be the main lead singer? We just back, or how did that?
That was a Babyface thing. That was Kenny knew our voices. So Kenny was he was a songwriter and a producer. And so, and LA was a part of it too, but Kenny, being our brother, really knew our voices, and he kind of almost already had in his head how that was going to work. So we were really, we were clay and they were the potters. We were there with a willingness to do whatever it took to have this opportunity. And so it was about taking direction at that point for us. And it was through their direction is how we kind of really kind of formulated what the sound of After Seven was, because again, it had been a while since we had sung anything together, but we were still eager and anxious for the opportunity. So when it came, we hopped on a plane, and next thing you know, we were like the Beverly Hillbillies. We were out in LA. And it started just like that. We got out there second week in November of 1988.
Wow.
Is that it right, Keith? 1988?
Yeah.
Keith, was it hard to just leave Chicago and just say, okay, let's give this a try, or?
Well, I didn't look at it as being hard. I looked at it as Kevon was mentioning, with the amount of success that Babyface and LA were having, it felt like a good bet that, we knew we had a sound. We didn't know what we'd sound like on a record, but we knew we had something that people were interested in just from the times when we got on stage around Indianapolis, and we win a lot of those contests, and the ladies would give us a lot of love. But it was those times that made us think that it's a great chance if we got the opportunity. And with their success, they were, Roses Are Red, the Mac Band,
yeah, the Mac Band, yeah.
Oh, he's learned.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I mean, there was Jimmy and Terry, there was LA and Babyface, and then there was Teddy Riley towards the latter part of the '80s, and so you had, from the Boys, you had Karen White, you had, you had all this stuff. So
Right.
yeah,
Ooh,
the
not
Whispers
bringing it
and
back.
stuff. Yeah, so it was. So I mean, as I said, for me, when you came out with the first single, "Heat of the Moment," because we didn't, as I said, in Nigeria, we'd get an odd copy of Black Beat and Right On, but it was easy to sort of hear a song and say, "Oh, this sounds very similar to the Boys." It sounds, so you could tell sonically it had that same passion and same sort of thing, and so oddly enough, up tempos did much better in Nigeria in those late '80s and early in the '80s than sort of ballads. So hence, apart from Superwoman, most up tempos did extremely well. But yeah, I mean, that was did you realize, when did you realize that you guys were going to, that, especially the first track being Heat of the Moment, and it took off? Did you realize after hearing it that, yeah, we're gonna go to number one and stuff, or what was the confidence like?
Wow. Um, we were just we were taking the ride at that point. I mean, from the time that we got there, we were there for about 2 months, and before we actually got into the studio and actually started recording. But from the time we started recording till maybe April or so, we'd wrapped up the recording. As you know, there were only 8 tracks on that first album, debut album, and so it wrapped up pretty quick. So things were moving pretty rapidly. We were kind of jettisoned into a machine, a legitimate record label, and uh, fully outfitted with publicity department, promotional department, video. I mean, it was an experience, but we were just trying to keep pace, taking it all in, trying to ask the right kind of questions, because we felt like we need to know more about what it is that we're doing, because it was happening so quick.
Wow.
And it did happen. It happened quickly, and we recorded a video, and the video was out, and then it was on BET. So when you were on BET, you were automatically famous.
Yeah.
Let alone what it was doing at the radio. So we went from being 3 individuals doing our own respective jobs in different fields to swept away, gone for less than probably 6 to 8 months. And next thing you know, we're on TV. And it was a whirlwind. Where we were, where it went to on the charts, I don't know that we were really even measuring how much that meant, other than the fact that, hey, we got a record on the radio, we got a video on BET, and now what's the next thing? Because that's where we were. It was hurry up, pick up, and figure out what happens next. And so it was a matter of, now you got to try to figure out how to go support. And so at that time, we were doing radio in stores.
Okay.
Remember that stuff, Keith?
Yeah.
Woo-hoo. Yeah. Doing a lot of radio in stores and so on and so forth. And then you had to go support your record by, hopefully, if it's out there long enough, people want to see the act that they hear performing on the radio. And so it was time to hit the road, Jack. That's what we had to do.
I mean, was it fun though, Keith?
Oh yeah, it was lots of fun. It was a lot of hard work. We rehearsed a lot. We realized that our live show was the bread and butter. Once we realized that, we worked hard at it and spent a lot of time developing that part of our craft in small venues. And of course, soon after, as Heat of the Moment went up the charts, by the time we got to Ready or Not blowing up, we were fortunate to be put under the wing of Al Heyman, and
Oh,
we
Al
became
Heyman,
best.
Superfest, Budweiser
Listen,
Superfest.
Budweiser.
He's an encyclopedia over here.
Wow. Yeah.
He was responsible for putting us in a lot of places those first 2 years after the album broke, and we toured basically for 2 years. So we really probably should have got back in the studio, but it was an opportunity to make money and an opportunity to develop ourselves as you know, live artists. And you don't say no. You just kind of kept going, kept going, kept going. But it has paid off for us because we were blessed to be able to perform with some of the greats that were from
Absolutely
the 70s and from the
Wow.
80s, and some artists from the 60s that we were, from Smokey Robinson to Gladys
Wow.
Knight, Patti LaBelle, Frankie Beverly,
Wow.
Whitney Houston, Hammer, uh, Regina Bell. I mean, it's a host of great artists. Gerald Levert,
Peebo Bryson.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So we've been on stage with a mirage of people, and every one of those opportunities helped to make us that much better when it came to being on stage and getting comfortable at it. But we were passionate for the music. It's just the love of the music.
Now, because you mentioned being teamed up with Al Heyman, and he was known for putting on these massive R&B shows, New Edition guy, and Guy and all this stuff. But at that time, were you aware of how the business part of the industry works? Where, okay, you may be famous, but unless you're writing all the songs and don't sign some shady publishing deal, you need to go and make money on tour. To commit to doing a tour which took 3 years before your next album came out.
Well, you want to add? Go ahead, Kevin.
No. Go ahead. I'm not sure why I heard the question, so go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was asking because you were on a tour, which meant that your sophomore album didn't come out until I think 3 years, 92, 3 years later. So, but being on tour and committing that long on the tour instead of being back in the studio recording, were you aware at those early stages about how the industry, the business part of the industry was financially, where, okay, tour money is pretty much how you make the money unless you're writing and getting all the, especially if you're writing and stuff.
All right. Well, we weren't, we were primarily vocalists, okay? And most of it, all of it, not most at least, most of the songs that we performed were written by and produced by other people. Here was where we were unaware of how critically important it was to get back into the studio, and that 3 years, that 3 year turnaround. We probably, in all honesty, we should have gotten back into the studio probably a year and a half later. But the thing was for us is that we were a performing group, and we were having opportunities being presented to us back and forth, whether it was with the Whispers, then it was MC Hammer. And after MC Hammer came the Whitney Houston "I'm Your Baby Tonight" tour.
Wow.
Do you turn those down? You don't turn those down. You go to work, and that's what it was. But what we didn't fully grasp was how urgent or how critical it was to get back in the studio and give them new product. And I think we missed that boat each time. So, that's why there was such a long period in between each one of our records, is because we were a group that had a reputation for performing. And we would go perform, and when they say support that record, we fully understood what that meant. And hey, that's your bread and your butter. Go get it. Right. And that's kind of what we were doing.
On Virgin, I know, most people might remember Virgin when they signed this big deal with Janet, and I remember Tony.
We were there.
Yeah, and I remember Tony Terry. I've interviewed him, and he mentioned going to Virgin. But how many other urban acts were on Virgin at the time when you guys were there, to see why they didn't push to get you back in?
We were one of the few. I mean, ultimately they signed Janet. Then didn't they sign a little boy group, Keith?
They had EU.
Yeah, they had EU.
Soul to Soul.
Yeah, Soul to Soul, but they were
from the
across
UK.
the pond.
Yeah,
right, exactly. There weren't a lot of other R&B acts that I can. Oh, they did. Ultimately, they signed Layla. They brought Layla, but these were in the latter years. But during that time that we were there in that time frame, I don't know that there was a host of many other R&B artists, so to speak, that were signed to the label, and they ended up signing Lenny Kravitz. Did they have Maxi Priest? I think at one point in time too. Yeah, so there were a handful, but not totally full R&B that I can recall.
Yeah, because I was wondering why they didn't. They weren't insisting. Come on, guys, we need another album. Even while you're on tour, do some recording and then go back and especially if they don't make the money on the tour with you guys. They were just like, yeah, go ahead.
Right, yeah. Well, back in the day, they were going to make generally they were making their money anyway. But I can't say that maybe we weren't probably a little hard to deal with, a little hard headed, and maybe we out here making our money and we ain't ready to go back into the studio. That's a organic kind of thing that has to happen, And in retrospect, I can look back and say, absolutely, we should have absolutely been back in the studio a year and a half or later. It was kind of hard to see, I think, for us to see why we would do that when we have this amount of music on a record. But, I think we did. The second record was called Taking My Time.
Right? Which kind of poetic justice.
Yeah. Yes. Well, that kind of worked out that way, didn't it? So there we were. But we had Taken My Time, and on that record there was Kicking It, right? Baby I'm For Real, and Can He Love You Like This. Were those the singles, Keith?
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things I liked about Baby I'm For Real is because it was one of the first times that I remember seeing the three of you all. Was that Taking My Time? Was it? Oh, After Seven watch. Okay, yeah.
After Seven, Taking My Time watch. You were.
Okay. I mean, I liked what I liked about Baby I'm For Real, and I guess you guys performing now is the fact that the three of you guys we could see the three of you perform, because most of the time it was Melvin starting off and then Kevin would come in. It was pre-Boys to Men type of, how Sean and Michael will start off a song, then 1 year will stop. But what I liked about that track was it was able to feature prominently the three of you guys, different with your vocals. Whose idea was it to make sure that at least, yes, we all of you guys were featured well, not equally, but featured prominently on the track?
That was Daryl Simmons.
Okay.
Daryl Simmons.
Came up with the concept of redoing Baby I'm For Real, and then he added the Natural High thing on Bloodstone. And it gave me an opportunity to get a chance to be showcased, and it worked out. It was a great record for us, and still is.
Yeah. As main vocalists, when the tracks are being presented, do you guys say, no, this doesn't fit us, or it's like, okay, we'll go for it?
Yeah, we listen to it. I mean, like, even off of this Unfinished Business record, we decided to go a slightly different route with regards to how we approached some new music, and that was the case with probably the most different track on the album altogether, and was really new for us, was the song, the lead single, Bittersweet. And we were presented with about 4 or 5, maybe 6 various tracks, songs, if you will. But we all kind of listened to them and really just had to kind of make a determination of what song out of those that were presented to us felt most like a, a, a story that After Seven would tell you, and we have to size up. It has to, it kind of has to, in some manner or form, kind of fit what we think is can be a fair representation of After Seven staying true and authentic to who we are.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about by the mid '90s, I mean, and there's a lot of talk right now about the state of R&B, but we noticed by the mid '90s, it went from R&B and then hip hop almost as a side note. Then became hip hop and R&B, and then hip hop became the very dominant force. Did you, as a recording artist, R&B recording artist, then see the shift and see that a lot of radio stations were being predominantly putting a lot more hip hop and getting most of the vocalists were getting hip hop artists to feature in their records? Did you guys notice that, or did you? How did it affect you guys then?
Keith, you can speak to it. I mean, I think we saw it. We saw all of that. It was happening right beneath our feet or in front of our eyes. Where it was an R&B song and a rapper was maybe just, hey, let me hop on it to kind of get on that track, and so I might let you get on this hook. I might, and you went from I might let you get on this hook, this chorus to now it moved from that to eventually it got to where they were dominant and I might let you sing on this hook. And so it totally flipped. It totally flipped in terms of hip hop artists and rappers who wanted to get on a chorus or get on a hook and spit 16 bars or something like that, to now they got the song and you think we could get on here and sing about 16 bars on your
y'all swing me one of them hooks.
Yeah, wow. It flipped. It totally flipped. So, but hey, this business is ever changing. It's constantly evolving, and so you kind of, and as much as you can, try to keep your ear to the ground and know what's coming next, or so you can figure out how you stay in the again, what's so important for us as an act, as an entity, is to stay true to who you are. And not lose your authenticity, but stay relevant if you can.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, Unfinished Business is very reminiscent of an album that is very true to R&B. And as I said, I'm going to go through from Bittersweet down to Tomorrow, the day. So I want to hold myself a little bit, but I just wanted to get to, so most of us didn't know, because after you did Reflections, it was, we didn't see you guys for goodness, almost more than 10 years or so. I know, Kevon, you had your solo album, but most of us didn't understand why the separation after the third album, especially as platinum gold album. I would assume Virgin might have wanted to continue working with you guys.
Well, Virgin may have. I think we had gotten to a point of impasse, I think is what it was with Virgin Records. We as artists were frustrated. We felt like we weren't, and quite honestly, and we look back in retrospect, they were really doing everything in their power that they knew to do. And I guess we just felt like we wanted more. I thought there should be more on the plate. And we were frustrated, and quite honestly, they were frustrated and didn't know what more they could do to help push the brand. And so we were saying, hey, well, let us out of this situation if we can't do anything. So And that's kind of where we came to. And at the time, thank goodness, Mr. Phil Corderero, who was the acting president at the time, was willing to release us, and they let us go. They were willing to release us, and he released us debt free. He wiped our debt.
Wow.
But what was real, what was really going on at the time was the simple fact that the music industry had evolved. It had moved on to something else. So here we were, an act that had, sold multi-platinum, and were open to sign a deal with no debt. But there weren't any takers. There were no labels that were interested in After Seven as an entity, because I don't know if we were perceived to be difficult. I don't know if they felt like, a lot of the other artists that they were signing right now were really selling records, and they were youthful, because, we were older than a lot of the acts that were out there. So, but the simple fact of the matter was there was not a deal to be had.
Wow.
So from that point, then next thing what was it? Soul Food came we did that in 1996. Soul Food came in 1997, and in '99 I went ahead and did a solo record. But there was just not really no real keen interest on the part of any of the many labels that were out at the time that wanted to take the group on.
But then as a trio, then what do you end up doing when we can't get a record deal? Are you still able to get tours going, or what do the three of you do? Or has it been such a long whirlwind that you needed a break?
It was definitely break time, wasn't it, Keith?
Took a different direction for a time, and doing some things that we individually wanted to do. But I think the love and the passion for the music is what still kept us bonded, because we were still came together and did live performances and shows. There was still a desire for people to see, because the time that we had spent on stage was a lot of time.
Wow.
In front of a lot of key people, hard ticket buyers, people who go to concerts all the time. And so that's what we were born in front of. And so we'd made a mark on people. So we were able to come back and put ourselves in front of people. And eventually, Face came back and pulled us together, got Melvin to come back to the table, and put together the Timeless record, which opened the door for us to move forward back, with almost 15, 20 years of being away from recording. Kevon and myself, honestly, we were so in love with what we had done in the past, the sound of what the group was with Melvin and Kevon and myself, that became something that we honestly didn't want to move forward recording without Melvin's participation. And he had grown a little weary with all the trappings of the music industry from the business side point of view. Melvin just wanted a microphone and a stage.
Yeah.
I don't want nothing to do with that. And so, but the business of music is a reality, and it's something that you have to deal with, and you have to learn about it, or you get ate up by it. And I think me and Kevon embraced the business side of the music and allowed ourselves to deal with that. And what we learned, coupled with what we learned from making music and performing music, has kept us near and dear to music. It's still a strong fiber in each of our hearts and minds. Melvin's coming back gave us the pathway to come back. And without his voice, Kevon and myself never really wanted to come back and record again, because the sound of After Seven was such a unique sound. And him coming back, like I say, opened that door. Face came to the table. We ended up recording an album, what was supposed to be a single. Had pretty good success with the Timeless. And that again kind of opened the door for us to be here today, bringing you unfinished business.
How was E1 as a label in helping support Timeless? Because we had some very good singles on the album and that did very well. But they were known, I think I knew them as Couch Music. They were known for doing a lot more rock and stuff. But were they as supportive as you experienced in Virgin and to help push the record? What was your okay?
They're being count.
Yeah. Whole new world. It was a whole new world. They, it was about, as Keith says, they were bean counters. They were the bottom line kind of. It was probably less to do with the creative and more to do with the financial aspect of it purely being a business. And how do we get product into the marketplace? How far do we run? We run just far enough, not beyond. And at the end of the day, we'll settle up and we'll see where we are. And that's kind of like what we learned from E1. And no, I'm not bashing them, but because, it was an independent, it wasn't a major. They didn't have the kind of budgets that these major labels have. So they're doing what they knew how to do the best way they knew how. And it was come on in here and get this lesson. That's what it was for us. And to learn is, hey, what it used to be and what it is, two different things. And here's how we get down here. And because take a look around, tell me where you got a situation, because chances are there's probably not a situation for you. So if you like how we look, how we do things, come on in. And that's pretty much kind of, for artists today that come of our ilk, that were born through and burst through radio, late 80s, 90s, and 2000s. There aren't labels. Major labels aren't looking to sign you today. They're looking for new, fresh money. They're looking for long money. They're looking for artists who are now today, who can maybe capture a little bit of radio, but mainly it's all about streaming right now today. So they want those millions and millions of followers, if you will, fans who have come up on a new technology and can make those record labels the kind of money they were making back in the day before, these new platforms became part of the music scene, which makes sense. You can't be mad at them. I mean, I understand it's a business.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's understandable. I mean, we've got Dan here, and but I wanted to get to the fact how he is here, and we can talk about how Melvin, how his loss. I mean, I think he passed 2019, and I think the next year we had the pandemic. A lot of us started losing loved ones and things, but and he had such a. From those of us who are just as fans, had sort of a quiet personality, but such a big voice, and he just seemed like a big giant, but calm giant and stuff. When you reflect on him as a performer, as a brother, as a friend, think people that, as I said, who didn't know, don't know as personally as you guys. What are the things that you would say that what we've missed?
My brother Melvin was a force. Would do anything for you. If you were ever in need, he was there for you. But I also know that he was a very loving father. Cared very deeply about his kids, his sons and daughters. And he had such a strong passion and a understanding of music in a way that I didn't. It was just music was in him from early on. It was quite a natural thing for him. It wasn't anything he had to think about, and you didn't have to. With Melvin, you didn't give him much direction at all when he walked into the studio, into the booth. He quite honestly knew his way without having to take any direction, because it was, I mean, he was just this soulful guy who had his finger on the pulse. You get me in the booth, okay, what y'all want me to do? What am I doing? Hey, you know, I don't know it like Melvin. Melvin's gonna sing. He gonna hear the harmonies. He gonna put some soul on top of it, and you know. But and when it was done, he was out. I did it. He knocked it out, and that was it. Nothing else. I'm not gonna give you anything more. I finished it. It's done. That's what I did. Exactly what was needed, and that's who he was. And it was the same thing. I mean, he loved music. He loved the performance of music. He loved being in the studio. But when I get in the studio, I'm gonna go in there. I'm gonna get it done. Now he might smoke a cigarette before he come in there. Oh, it's time to go in. Boom, put the cigarette out. Go on into the studio, rip the part, come on back out. That was my brother Melvin, and you know, he was just like I said, he was a force to be reckoned with. And the same thing for live performance. He wanted things right on stage so that he could give his best, is what it always was. But he was always so very natural. I recall early on when we were talking about deciding who's going to do what, who's going to sing what. I was prepared to not sing any leads because prior to becoming a member of After Seven, I really didn't know what my voice was. So any song and every song that I used to sing, I would absolutely emulate whoever it was. So if it was Luther, if it was Peabo Bryson, whoever it was, that's who I was. That's how I delivered it. But Melvin always had his own voice. And because he had his own voice early on, they thought, well, Melvin's going to be the lead singer. And I was like, okay, I'll do background. And I was cool with that. But it wasn't until we got into the studio that, you know, they figured, okay, we got this part, let you sing this part. Well, I had no idea. No one's ever sung this part before. Well, no one's ever sung the part. No, okay. You are going to sing this part. And so me being in After Seven was the first time I really learned what my voice was. But Melvin came in there like like I said, a force to be like a force of nature. He was a champion in there, and everything that he put on, he just had so much flavor in everything that he did. But you know, like I said, father, he was a loving husband and a good brother. He and I, you know, we had our rounds because that's what brothers do. But we had love and respect for each other. And I miss him. I'm sorry that he's gone, but I know that, I know that he's watching. I know that he's here with us in spirit. He gave me a thumbs up on that dude over there, that guy Danny Sky High McLean. He liked what Danny was doing, so he gave Danny a thumbs up before we brought Danny into the fold. So he was all good with it, you know.
Okay, was he still alive when Danny joined?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I mean, so how did that work out? Because I know that Jason was with you guys initially before, and stuff. So how did that sort of arrangement happen? Where
Keith, let me say this for the record: this man got too much information. He got too much info. He's breaking it all the way down. Jason had been with us probably for a good 10 years, right? 10 years, 8 to 10 years, maybe more longer, 13.
Yeah, 13.
Wow.
So that he had been with us for quite some time, and I think initially, it was a place that Jason wanted to be, and it was cool because he had a voice as well. I think over time, the thing that you think this is not what it is ultimately. I think just over time it wasn't what I think he thought it was going to be, and to be, to stand in the gap for your father, is one thing, but is it what you really want? And I think part of that was coming into play, and why things kind of started to go a little south for us. And that, that I think maybe it was just time to make a new transition. It's kind of what I felt it was, at that point. And sometimes we make changes. We just have to make some changes. And trust me when I tell you, they're not any easy decisions to make or to execute. But that's kind of how that was. And at that point, then we decided to bring Danny into the fold. So
yeah, I mean, how was Danny discovered then? When you decided, and with Melvin still around?
I've been talking too much. Danny, handle that.
Yeah. How did you? Was there notes in the ads or something? Did you see in Yellow Pages or something? Or what?
Yellow Pages. No, actually, I was blessed with the opportunity of working with Daryl Simmons on a project.
Silent partner.
Yeah, Mr. Silent Partner himself. And he's that kind of guy, man. He'll take care of you, when he knows your heart is in it for the right reason. So out of the blue, I just received a call from Kevon, and it was like April, March, or something like that of 2019. But I received the call. Kevon was like, "Hey, are you interested?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, of course." I didn't even second guess it. It was just a matter of, okay, well, let's see if you fit the mold first. Can you dance? Can you, do choreography? Are you aware of the kind of work that After Seven is going to be doing, the kind of touring and, all that other stuff, what I mean? Because this is a level different from the level that I'm used to.
What were you used to?
Industry.
What were you used to?
Previous, before After Seven, I was just a working musician. I in Atlanta. I moved down to Atlanta just to pay my dues, if you will, because I knew, I wanted to make a living out of singing. It wasn't just a matter of, I want to be a superstar. The superstar thing was going to be a plus, but you gotta love this thing called music. You gotta love this thing, because you'll get a whole lot of no's before you get yeses. And even still, you got to keep pushing. And these guys right here, they understood that about me, and I understood that about them, considering their story. So, and even Daryl understood that about me too. He knew my heart was in it for the right reason, which is why I'm so blessed that he was that he passed my name over to Kevon. So once he passed my name over to Kevon gave me a call. I shot him over some music videos or videos that I had on YouTube of my live performances. He heard what I could do in the studio. I was like, yeah, okay, I see what you do, but as a soloist or whatnot. But how are you in a group setting? How do you cooperate and things of that nature? So then he got me with Keith, and Keith got me on the ones and twos. It was like, okay, and one, and two, and three. And but Keith got me right. I had the choreography down in a couple of months, in a few months or whatever. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to speak with Mr. Melvin Edmonds, which would have totally made my day. You know what I'm saying? But the fact that the guys told me that he gave me the thumbs up just gave me the drive to represent the brand that much harder. So by the time we hit that first gig in May of 2019, it was just up and away.
Oh. Did it feel pressure? Because I mean, Melvin is such a, as I said, such a heartbeat of the group. Did you feel nervous about actually taking on the role and think, this might, I may not get the response from the audience, so maybe this is a risk too far?
There were a few thoughts that were going on in my head. One, One was, oh man, I know this song's front to back. I got this. But then there was another part of me. By the time once it started getting real, once we started doing the shows, that's when the anxiety started hitting. Like, oh, wait a minute, hold on. This is Melvin Evans here. Like, this is a mantle that you can't just jump on. You know what I'm saying? I still needed to prove myself to the millions of fans around the world that love After Seven. So I had to humble myself for a second or whatever. I'm like, okay, well, let me put in the work, and I'm not scared of proving myself. So let me put in the work, show what I can do, and what made it easy was knowing that Kevon and Keith, gave me the thumbs up enough to say, you got this, man. We got your back, and if it's a matter of letting the fans know, show it in your work, show what you can do on the stage, and that's what I did. And that was that level, because once we got in the studio, that was another level.
Yeah, no, I'm going to get to the studio. You guys were at the Yossi's in Oakland back in early August. A friend of mine, Elise, yeah, she goes to all the concerts, so she was filming, and I saw the performance. You guys were all wearing white, and it's hard to tell that there's an age difference between the three of you because because Kevin and Marvin, it's almost as if Danny's come in and he's like, okay, we need to make sure he doesn't look any younger than us and stuff, because you guys are wearing all dressed and all looking fit, and he's like, my goodness, you wouldn't tell there's a big age difference. But I could, but the comfort you had, Danny, in leading the songs, it was like, wow. And the way you guys all interchange, I was like, wow, really, really impressed by how seamless it just comes about. Comes about, and it's learning the choreography because, as I said, from Can't Stop and Ready or Not, you guys constantly perform. They're constantly performing, even when they're singing slow songs. I look back at the Apollo when you guys did Ready or Not, and you're wearing some, like, I don't know if you remember that performance. You were wearing some baggy whites and sort of baggy white sort of outfits, but you guys did a lot of the dancing routines before you sing, and so there's a lot of performance in that, I've said. But you got it seamlessly and stuff. Um,
Yeah, I did my homework. I did the best that I could. I mean, even still before that, again, I when I was younger, I locked and loaded into Soul Train and Showtime at the Apollo, and
yeah,
whatever performances that I could find when I was younger, and it just made things easier now that you got YouTube and everything, so you could find everything on there. So I studied the crap out of Melvin and no, for real, and just kind of honed in on the brand of After Seven. It was one thing being a fan, now being a part of the group. I understood that the brand of After Seven was was what mattered, to me, so much so that I needed to put in the work to make sure that I was, on par with these guys been building this empire for so long. You know what I mean?
yeah. I
It
mean,
wasn't that hard, but it wasn't that easy.
I mean,
Hey, guys, to inject because my phone is gonna go dead in about 3 or 4 minutes. So
Okay.
Ooh,
oh, okay.
wow.
No, cause I wanted to go to unfinished business, and I think one of the things I probably asked you, Keith, while you're still here, is in the past I could always tell when Marvin was singing, and then when Kevon joins in, and even yourself. But listening to a lot of the tracks, I could barely tell the difference between Kevon and Danny performing vocally. Um, so they were, sometimes you could tell the difference, but this time the voices were somewhat similar. Was there any thought about, we needed something more at very distinct, similar to Melvin's voice, or when you heard him sing, did you not think, well, it's a little bit similar to Kevon, but he has the energy? What was the thinking?
well, I think primarily that became a point of order. Damon Thomas was the producer, and there were times when we first started that there was some similarities in the tone of Kevin's voice and Danny's voice. But I think that over the period of the course of recording the record, between Philly, the voice, who had wrote most of the lyrical content, they were able to develop an area where there was still some yin and some yang associated with what Kevin's tender, sweet voice was, and then at the same time taking the sweet part of Danny's voice and getting him to just relax and to, because Danny is used to singing more of a rougher edge to his voice. He has so much, there's a lot of voice there. And so he had to be kind of harnessed into pulling some back. But between Philly and Damon, they were able to give him a place. And that's what great producers do. They bring you in and help you develop your presence on the record in a way that is not going to hurt the record. But at the same time, the brand of After Seven was Melvin and Kevin, Melvin and Kevin. And Danny had to come in and come into a situation where he had, you know, bricks on his shoulders trying to fit in to make that yin and yang thing work. It took a little bit of time, maybe a week or two, and then Danny started getting used to it. And I think we found the happy medium of the difference between their voices. But you are correct in what you probably heard was some similarities in some tonations there. But I think Philly and Damon were able to bring that contrast and that edge between their two voices. And it's worked, and it's proven with the success of Unfinished Business.
I mean, what I did like about the album was the fact that you had Damon Thomas do about, he did 8 songs, Babyface did 1, and then you had Stokely do 2, and I think Jay Crash do Bittersweet. But having one sort of overall arching producer kept the sounds, gave it a real nice balanced sound, and then having Stokely adding 1 or 2 tracks in there was a nice fix. I'm going to name my top 5 songs on the album. No Place Like You, Tomorrow Can Wait, The Day, because it reminded me of Mid Condition, and Bittersweet. And Bittersweet keeps growing on me each day. But I think my favorite was No Place Like You. It's just I just love those types of tender sort of, Babyface writes these kind of lyrics that just go to the place. But then it's strange that Tomorrow Can Wait was produced by Face, but it wasn't written by him, and it seemed like a very strange thing that he did. But yeah, so talk about the album, because as I said, I've listened to it probably 3 or 4 times, all of the songs completely, and been able to pick my favorite from them. But talk about how you guys, signed to Sono Records, and how that, they gave you, the chance to record this album.
First off, when Danny came, I'm going to say, when Danny came into the studio, he was singing every note that was known to man. Yes, he was. I don't know that he meant to, but that's where he was when we got started. So
and
we
you
had
only
to
get
reel
1 shot.
So we had to reel him in a little bit, but also to the point about the difference in textures and intonation. My brother Melvin, there's not another voice that I know that is his voice. To think that we were going to find that voice was, God blesses everybody with whatever gift or tool that he gives you. And that was Melvin's gift or tool. And I don't think that we'll find anybody, we were ever going to find anyone that could replicate that, because to try to do that is to not let your own gift shine, as if you're trying to imitate somebody else's gift. So um, I think Danny has brought his style and flavor to the group in a way that still uh, allows us to again be authentic in who we are. So that was important. I knew that we would not have a Melvin. I know, to his point, I know he studied Melvin. I hear every now and then some licks that he'll do that I know are trademark Melvin Edmonds.
Yeah.
But that just tells me that he's
I tried.
studying. It tells me that he's studying. But Danny has his own tone. He has his own style. And he's got a solid voice. He's got a nice range of color in his voice. So that has all been a good contribution to the group After Seven. With regards to the overall album, I think it's always important to try to find a producer or producers that are going to bring continuity to keep the body of the record intact, so that you're not willy-nilly all over the place, and you can't really kind of get a vibe on what the record, what the record is saying, or what we're trying to speak to, or what our expression is. Crazy as it was, we recorded this album in the shortest period of time we've ever recorded an album ever in our careers, and we did that in less than 40 days. We recorded this record, so that was a feat for us, and we didn't see that coming. But we also had to learn some other techniques that we weren't accustomed to, to get it done, because we were under the gun, so to speak.
During the pandemic.
Yeah, exactly. We had a choice to maybe do some virtual concerts and all that kind of stuff, or record a record. Which would you do? So we did what became our final product, Unfinished Business. I think that we're pleased. We're proud of what we did with this record. We're signed with Sono. They got major distribution through Universal, and Universal Music Group, and that was a definite plus. I think that they're pleased with the record, what we've done. It's been out for a year now, everybody has a thing. They're high on streaming, and that's where music is headed because of new platforms. But it's also we've had an opportunity to afford the ability to go to radio, which is our home. This is where we're from. And streaming, if we can get some streaming numbers, we're all A-okay with that. But I know where our home is, and I know where people will look to find us, and I know that promoters will look to find us at radio, and that is also part of what keeps our bread and butter. So it's important to have a presence at the radio for us. Again, this is our third single. Tomorrow Can Wait. We're pleased with the progress that it's making right now at this stage right now. So if we're fortunate enough, we'll continue to do what we've been doing since we came back on the scene in 2016, and that is put music out that we believe that matters and represents the kind of music that we love, and we think that is probably, in all honesty, is lacking. The kind of music talks about love and relationships, just in a positive way. Music that respects women. That's what we're going to bring each time around. So we may not be your cup of tea. Do they say that over there in the UK? No, but anyway, that's us. We're going to stay true to the game. We'd love to cross the pond, come across the pond and perform for you guys over there. If they're fans over there that still have an appreciation and love for After Seven, we're not just limiting this to stateside. We go everywhere to those folks who love our music. Interesting story. My brother Babyface was over in Moscow doing a show at a couple clubs. He was a few years back, and he told me when they played Ready or Not, they lost it.
Wow.
And I'm saying, what? They knew Ready or Not? He said they went crazy for Ready or Not. I had no idea that back in the day our music had reached Moscow. So there are After Seven fans all around the world, and well, for those listeners who you reach, let them know, hey, we're still out here doing it. We'd love to come and do what it is that we do, and continue to put great music out. Is our hope. That's the plan.
Yeah, no, yeah. As I said, we hopefully, I mean, we can get the promoters to bring you guys over. But when you think of Unfinished Business, as I said, they are 13, that 15, 3, so they're 12 tracks.
13,
yeah. What are your top 3 favorite? Well, I have 5 favorites because I've named 5, my 5, but which is and I'll go through it again just in case. No Place Like You, my top favorite. Tomorrow Can Wait, love that.
Okay.
Bittersweet, and then
Okay.
The Day, because it is the whole Stokely mint condition. It has that sort of vibe. Danny, what would your favorite on the album be?
My favorite, Who's Been Loving You is one of my favorites. And the reason why was because that was the very first song that I recorded as a member of After Seven. And, being in the studio, as Kevon told you, I was singing every lick, every riff that I could get on. I mean, again, you only get one shot. This is the first time hearing what I could do in the studio. So I don't, it was like, in the industry, you'll hear time is money, baby. You know what I mean? So, you go in there, you give it all you got. But then there was like, no. We need you to pull that back a little bit. You're not one yet.
You're not Johnny
like,
Gill.
Okay.
I put Michael Jackson because that in Who's Been Loving You, because that song reminded me of a Michael Jackson type song. So I remember listening to it, oh, that just sounds like a Michael track. Or I don't know if there was any thought of that it did at all.
No.
I can't say where Felly the Voice was when he wrote that, but I know he was in his bag. I know he went in there and wrote a hell of a song. But but again, that's a special song to me because that was the first song that I ever recorded as a member of After Seven. The other songs, it will be, of course, No Place Like You. Tomorrow Can Wait, because I've always wanted to I've always dreamed of being on a record with Babyface, and that was just something that was just like I can check off on my bucket list.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And yeah, man, other than that, I never really hear a lot of people say this, but Sing a Love Song was a really good song. I like that song a lot. And yeah.
What about you, Kevon? What are your favorite ones?
No Place Like You. Well, okay. Favorite. Wow. I don't know if I can say what is my favorite. I can tell you what are my top 5.
Yeah, top 5. Yeah.
No Place Like You.
Yeah.
Tomorrow Can Wait.
Yeah.
Bittersweet.
Yeah.
Who's Been Loving You.
Okay.
And Girl, Your Love Has Made a Man of Me.
Yeah, put that down. Yeah, that was my number 5. Yeah, Made a Man of Me. Yeah, that
Made a Man of Me.
Yeah. So but yeah, as I said, I listened to. I was like, wow, these are songs that I probably would have listened to in the mid '90s, and people talk about, well, with it that R&B. I said it's a fact that back in those days there was a lot more radio programmers who would then put a lot of these songs on, so we'd listen to it. Then we would then start seeing the videos on Video Soul and stuff and all those places. So we were able to see it, and then we'll go and buy it. A lot of people in my generation going to a record store. My car doesn't have a CD player, so I wouldn't even know where to play CD.
No,
And
no.
if I do go for streaming, it's it doesn't work. So most of
Yeah.
on the channel, I asked the community, where do you listen to music? And majority listen to it on YouTube. So it's almost like YouTube becomes where we just listen to music, because either we're listening to legacy stuff, but we're still any of the new stuff, we're able to watch it and listen to it there, and because it's accessible and stuff. But as I said, I've gone through this album 3 or 4 times, and I was like, wow, these really, really great songs. And um, Damon Thomas, who did handled almost 80% of the production, is he part of Babyface camp, or was Face, because he would write
Yeah,
to this?
he came up under Babyface for a while. He worked under my brother for several years, so he's got a lot of those influences in the way that he approaches and writes too as well. He can, let's say it that way. But he was also part of a member of Underdog,
Okay.
songwriting producing group, duo rather. Harvey Mason Jr. and Damon Thomas.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
So whose idea was it for him to be the lead producer and not Kenny, just doing everything? Or
It was my decision. I wanted to kind of go slightly a different route, do something just a little bit different, to maybe, just sometimes you just want to shake it up. It's
yeah,
good to kind of shake things up a little bit. It wasn't that, Face couldn't write or this, that, and the other, I just thought it was time, after, he did a fully produced, he and Daryl Simmons fully produced the Timeless record. You've earned yourself a break, and we're going to go over here and try to do something else over here. That's all.
okay,
So,
yeah. No, it's just good, and I think actually the bittersweet is. I mean, it's as I said, with that track, it's a song, it's a track that maybe I could see somebody rapping on, doing some trap. But the way you guys pulled it off and stuff, I mean, how was that for you, Kevin? Was it a challenge singing that at that pace? And
well, it was really different, mainly because we had to do this. We started out doing this thing uh, over uh, over an interface. They were in L.A. We were in Atlanta. That's no fun.
okay,
As a person who's done this for 30 plus years, when I step into the studio, I want to look through the glass and see you. If I want to give you an evil eye, like I ain't feeling this, I need you to feel me.
To feel me.
You know. so or if I'm feeling and feeling good, it's we all there. But boy, when you're miles and miles away and there is delay, it's quite a challenge. It's quite
Yeah,
a challenge, is what I will
yeah.
tell you. So that made it
Oh,
difficult. It was more of a challenge than anything else I've ever had to do in the studio. Usually we go into a studio and we hear a song for the first time. We might do a little rough on it, take it home, live with it a day or two, come
okay,
back and knock it
yeah.
out. That's not what we did this round. We came in, they're writing the song, sing the song. And that's
wow,
kind of how that happened with us. That's the reason when you talk about 40 days, whoop, that's the reason. Because we got it done right then and there. We didn't have a chance to really, for me, take on the kind of ownership that I like, that allows me to pour me into it. But it worked. It worked. We got through it. We got through it. So
yeah. I mean, I
but
listened to it, and I don't think I would have thought that this look sounds rushed. And as I said, if I can pick out 5 of my favorite, it means the rest were really good. But these were the ones that
mm,
I listen to it now, and I can just say, yeah, I can keep listening to it continuously. But
yeah.
recording that unusually and that quick, was it Sono saying, "Look, we've got to get you guys out by August, so quickly get it done"? Or
Mm.
why the rush?
No, it wasn't. It's just how they worked. We had to. That's how this producer worked. Yeah, I mean that's not how Damon worked, but that's you know, to Danny's point, time is money, and we're in here, and we're in here trying to get it done. And if we could get it done, I would have preferred because hey, it was recorded in Atlanta. I live in Nashville. I've got responsibilities back home, so when I go, I got to
Okay.
then get back, come back, and boom, 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 boom. So, and in addition to that, I think during that time, did I jack my knee up? I had an operation on my knee
Yeah,
during the time that we were
that's
recording
right.
too. So it was a lot of things that were going on that made me have to get there and get back, get there and get it knocked out is kind of what it was. So,
And we
you
had a
know,
death. Damon had the caught COVID. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I
Okay.
yeah. So that whole period is like, everything that you had to do was under uh, uh, a different set of pressures, if you will, because everything was, touch and go. So everybody's making every effort to stay protected, and
Yeah.
it was an experience, unusual, but at the end of the day, we were able to pull it all together and get it done. And so it wasn't like we were pressed with a um, Sono trying to say we got to get this record out. It wasn't anything like that, because they're more of a streaming anyway. So
Okay.
when it comes out, it's when it comes out. So
Yeah.
so that yeah.
What about the visuals? Because one of the things that I'm really impressed by is actually the quality. And back in the day we were used to Hype Williams charging bringing $1 million to do a video, but you
Uh,
you guys have come up consistently with some really beautiful videos that are conveying the song, which for the YouTube generation visually adds to the song's streams and stuff.
mhm.
But how do you keep that under budget, but also making sure you get a director who can really tell the story visually, but not, bring a big hefty paycheck pay.
Well, I think everybody understands anymore nowadays. You're not, maybe if I can't speak for Janet Jackson or for Lizzo or for those folks or Beyonce, what kind of money they might spend on a video today. But videos don't cost what videos used to cost.
Ah,
We used to spend $1 million, close to $1 million, 500, 600, 7,000, $700,000 on a video. It was crazy.
yeah,
Um, but it's not like that anymore today, and you just have to find the right director who uh, has the uh, uh, has the right sensitivity, understands what the message is or what your expression is, and again they have to pitch you with the right treatment.
yeah,
They got to pitch you with the right treatment, and you start out knowing, hey, you got X amount of dollars to work with, and we can only run so far with this. So, and I think that everybody understands that when you get to a day and age where you can make a video on an iPhone that don't come,
yeah,
that's all. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? So it's gotten, you know, it's it can still be costly, but it's not nearly as costly as what it used to be.
yeah.
Hey there, guys. This
Hey,
is Jamel Graves, and it's such a wonderful interview. But hey, guys, you guys have another appointment that you have to bounce, so you're running a little late.
oh
Can we schedule a part 2 at another time?
Okay,
wow,
no, so I'm just okay. I'm just wrapping up now with this. So you guys have a show with Kenny on Thursday.
right, we do in Philadelphia at the Dell.
Okay, and we should expect you guys to continue touring around the states or and promoting the album.
Most def-
Absolutely.
most definitely.
Yes. Okay. I think the final question I had actually was pretty much Kevon, you
Are you
did.
sure? Are you sure it's not something we can do? Because it would be great to continue at another time, but the guys are
Okay.
really running behind schedule.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, if you could, I mean, because I did have the if just the yeah the how we wrap it up, but
Okay.
if you can
So what
reschedule.
we'll do is, yeah, what we'll do is, well, you and I follow up by email because I
Okay.
know the guys would love to continue, but I really got to get them to the next
Okay.
appointment. So
Okay.
what we'll do is, you and I follow up by email, and we'll work out the questions prior so we can just have a wonderful part 2 to this interview. Is that great?
Yeah. That's fine. Yeah.
Okay, why don't we
Hey,
jump off and I'll.
I
Sorry, go
enjoyed
ahead,
it though.
Kavan.
Let me. No, I was gonna
Yes.
say I just wanted to let him know I've enjoyed the interview though for sure.
Yeah.
He's a breathing encyclopedia over there
Mhm.
with his
This
research.
is going to be great, and if we're really lucky, maybe some of this information will help motivate the audience and your fans to bring After Seven over so they can have a wonderful live concert in your neck of the woods. We would love that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, well,
Okay,
Danny, Kevon, yeah, and Keith had to drop off, but yeah, definitely
right.
thanks. And yeah,
Okay,
Please,
so
before we go,
shoot.
before we
Sorry.
go, please pronounce your
Mhm.
name for me, if you will.
oh, Namdi,
Namdi
yeah,
Okoye,
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 yeah,
Namdi Okoye.
yeah.
Okay. Well, it's a pleasure. It was a pleasure. Thanks so much for your time. We appreciate your interest too.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, it was pretty. Yeah,
And
All right.
it was awesome.
thank you.
Thank
And
you.
Namdi,
Hey everyone, I want to thank you for being part of Halftime Chats. This new update is really about our membership, and I'm really excited to be able to fully launch the membership page. There will be things like full interviews from day one. As soon as the interview drops, you get access to it without any ads on it. There'll be some exclusive member-only videos that will just be some behind-the-scenes stuff and some other things that we will never be broadcast. For some members, you can be able to get actually 2 interviews because I do have a backlog of almost 7 or 8 interviews that I don't even know when I'm going to be able to broadcast them. So you're able to get at least some of those up front, and some just behind the scenes stuff, because there's a lot of stuff that goes behind the scenes that I have never been able to talk about or release. For anyone else, you know what, the videos will still be the same, over a week or a week and a half or 2 weeks, depending on how long it is. So everything stays the same. The polls stay the same. The community chats, the community stuff stays the same. But I think with the membership stuff, I'm able to add a little bit more and invest a lot more time and energy in really supporting the members. So I do hope you come on that ride with me. I appreciate the support, and this will just help me continue to invest in taking things to the next level. Take care.
I begin to